Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So, when I started this channel, I wanted to document things that were working for me in plant propagation, plant growing, growing methods, because over and over again, I tended to have issues growing plants in soil, whether it was root rot, stem rot, fungus gnat issues. Propagating in soil was really, really difficult for me. There was always die-off. There was always some sort of a rotting situation. Even if I sterilized the soil, I couldn't really pinpoint what it was. So I said, you know what? Instead of wasting all my time trying to figure this out, let me try and explore different methods and just experiment with other things. That's where I came up with the acrylic yarn situation that you see here. Okay? And also water culture, because if done right, you can grow water culture with most plants, I'd say. I mean, hydroponic growing, if you have like an electric hydroponic setup, you could be very successful with that. I mean, that's what a lot of these commercial growers are doing. So yeah, this channel is not only about my successes, but it's also about my failures. And today is one of those videos that I want to show you a failure. If you've been following along, you know that I love to propagate Rex begonias. I love to grow begonias in general. They are one of my favorite plants in the world. And so I feel like since they're so easy to propagate, for me at least, in leaves, in water, for example, I wanted to just branch out and keep exploring, and maybe I can get some more information on why propagating in soil has been so difficult for me. And I thought that I was doing really well because I had one leaf, if you remember a few weeks back, I had a leaf I cut in half, stuck it in some soil, I bagged it, and I thought it was dying because the mother leaf looked like it was starting to rot away. So I'm thinking, it's not working, I don't know what we're gonna do. I pulled it out and there were babies growing, so I said, it's working. I should have really paid attention to that mother leaf because that's telling us a story. To show you now, this is the propagation. The mother leaf rotted all the way down, and the babies that were growing rotted as well. This was not sitting in a reservoir of water. This was not overly moist. It was just damp enough. I cannot figure out why this is always giving me an issue. It's baffling. I don't know if it's the airflow when it comes to the soil. I don't know if there are spores in a lot of the potting mixes that we use. And if you don't have good circulation, those spores take over and the fungus takes over. I really don't know. I don't know what it is. But instead of worrying about this and trying to figure it out, because I've been battling with the soil monster for years. So instead of that, let's just reinforce my other options that I have and explain to you the difference. Now, I should have paid attention to that leaf. And the reason why I say that, the mother leaf, I mean, because the mother leaf should not have been rotting that soon, that quickly, just when babies were starting to sprout. And the reason why I say that is, as an example, here is a mother leaf from a plant that has been propagated in water and moved into acrylic yarn. The mother leaf is still intact, in great condition, and the baby plant is growing just fine. Okay, here's another one. Mother leaf, babies. This one here is a famous one everyone knows. Mother leaf still hanging on, and all these are new leaves. Okay, let's see what else we got. This one here in water culture now, water propagation, and I'm keeping it in water. Mother leaf here, and the baby's still growing. The other option that I do use, aside from acrylic yarn, because if I am planning to ever move it maybe into a soil mixture of some type, I would then propagate it in sphagnum moss. So I do the sphagnum bag method. First, let me show you this. This is an example of a sphagnum bag. This was the plant that came in the mail. It had one leaf and the rest were all wilted and dead. And it had like 3 rhizomes that were just barely hanging on. So I pulled those rhizomes out and I stuck them in some sphagnum moss. I did a sphagnum bag. I bagged it up to keep the humidity in, and I saved those rhizomes. So now I have like 3 little plants of this doing just fine. That one leaf that was left, I said, let me take that leaf and put it in some water. And sure enough, I did. And you can see it's been in here for a while. Look at all those babies growing, and they're growing all the way up the petiole. In addition to all these babies growing on this leaf, I also have plants, baby plants growing on the leaf surface, okay? So water culture, water propagation, let's say, into water culture, or water propagation into acrylic medium works great for me. Propagating in directly in sphagnum moss. These were Hugh McLaughlin's. These two were leaves. You can still see the mother leaf in there. See the red, I guess the pink fuchsia. That is the mother leaf, still hanging on. Same thing with this one. Mother leaf is behind, still hanging on. These are in sphagnum moss. These were sphagnum bagged, doing great, okay? In contrast, to show even better, I did maybe a couple weeks after these, I took another leaf and I stuck it directly into acrylic yarn. Look at that one, okay? These are great. These are doing just fine. But look at that one. Boom. I don't know, again, I always say this, I don't know if it's because there's extra humidity, because that yarn lets a lot of humidity into the surrounding air, or if it's because it's sterile, it doesn't support the growth of mold because nothing is rotting in it. It's inorganic. I don't know. But you can see, these look great. These are older. This is younger, looking fantastic. So this is why I use this method, okay? Another example of a failure in soil was my curly fire flush, okay, begonia. I got that, I kept it in the pot that it came in, and here it is. This is it. This is what's left of it, okay? There's nothing left of it. This is the one rhizome that's still holding on. There are other two rhizomes in here that just rotted. It's not sitting in a reservoir of water or anything. I just keep it watered just like all the rest of these plants, and it did not make it. And this is showing a sign of root rot. When things die from the top down, not leaves from the bottom of the plant all the way up, if the growing tip starts to die first, you know that there are no nutrients and water getting to the most important part of the plant, which is the growing tip. And that usually means, more times than not, that there is some sort of a root rot situation going on. Root fungus or root pests, something that's not allowing the plant to bring up nutrients to the vital parts of the plant that are actually the active growing parts. So this one, active growing part, is dead. What I'm gonna do is try to save this one rhizome that's left, to pull it out of here, clean it off really, really good, and put it in some acrylic yarn, because that's the last stem that I got. Even the weeds, little seeds and weeds are growing, but the begonias don't like this. It's very unusual. Anyway, aside from that, getting back to this plant, this one here, the one leaf that was left, the rhizomes that I was able to save and grow in sphagnum moss. I also had just little pieces of another leaf that was basically dead. So I cut the leaf into two sections. I stuck them in some sphagnum moss in a little container and bagged it. I did a sphagnum bag. And you can see the little leaf piece right there grew a baby. There's a baby right there. Let me put it this way so you can see. That one little piece of leaf grew a baby. Same thing with this side. This other little piece of leaf grew a baby. So if you want tips on how to propagate Rex begonias in particular, Rex begonia leaves, or any type of rhizomatous begonias, aside from water culture, because I definitely propagate most of my plants in water, it's just easier for me. I can keep them in water for as long as I want, and then I could transfer them over to acrylic, as I've done a million and one times. Here's another one that was in water culture. Very little leaf that was left, but it grew a baby in the acrylic. Here's a sphagnum moss propagation. So aside from water propagation and water culture, I would then next recommend sphagnum moss. But that's it. I don't want to use anything else. I even have had some issues with propagating in perlite. This one is growing in perlite, not propagated. I just took the plant, cleaned off the roots, and stuck it in some perlite. Doing okay, you know. It's not growing as fast as I would want it to. This new leaf here has been trying to grow for quite some time now. So I'm probably going to take one of the older leaves, maybe the smallest one here, and propagate it in water and put it in some acrylic, because that's proven to work for me really well. But yeah, that is my issue. So if you have issues with if you have issues with soil propagation or growing plants in soil, leave a comment, because I want to hear about it. A lot of people have mentioned the same thing to me, but let's figure this out, because so many people have success with it and they think it's the best thing, since sliced bread. Everyone loves propagating plants in soil, growing them in soil. Maybe I may have to use a rooting hormone that has fungicide in it. I don't know, because I don't know if it's that the medium has fungus in it, has fungus spores. So I really don't know what it is yet, but my first solution, water propagation every time. Second solution, sphagnum moss, sphagnum bag it every time. Other than that, I would put it directly into acrylic like I did with this one, because obviously that did great. But I'm gonna stay away from the soil again. I wanted to try, doesn't work for me, moving on, and I'm moving on to what works. And the proof is in the pudding, and you can see every week when I'm posting videos, they're growing, they're thriving. I'm going to be taking cuttings off of some of these soon, some of the ones that are propagated in water or in acrylic, because it's time to just expand the collection. Anyway, if you have any questions about any of these issues that I've been dealing with or any of the solutions that I've shown, leave a comment as usual. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that bell if you want to be notified, and I will see you in the next video.